Democratic Congressman Ruben-Gallego and Republican Kari just wrapping up their only debate. For almost the first half hour, the debate involved discussion around the border and immigration. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Ellen McNamara. Tonight, the two candidates for the U.S. Senate, they took the stage in their only debate for the election. And they began with a 2-minute opening statement. We want to listen to a portion of that now.
Contrast, we're going to see and talk to somebody who has really failed the basic test of honesty. She has lied to Arizonans about the 2022 election. She has said that she still is the rightful governor of Arizona.
And so tonight we're going to watch as somebody tries to reinvent himself, somebody who used to be a member of the Progressive Caucus, somebody who has destroyed the very congressional district that he has served for the past 10 years.
In the hour-long debate, the border took up the majority of that time. Then they covered abortion, talked about the economy, making things more affordable for families, for children. And Chuck Coughlin, political analyst and CEO of HighGround, Inc., is here now to talk about more about the debate, to analyze it. Wow, there was a lot to get into. At times, frankly, it was a little uncomfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she's extraordinary. But,
yeah.
You know, she's a professionally trained journalist.
Correct.
She can deliver a line.
Yep.
And she knows how to maintain a cadence about what she does.
The opening statement,
yeah.
I mean, it was spot on, right?
Yeah.
She was telling her story.
Right.
Telling her story.
But it veers, you know, throughout the whole thing away from, you know, what actually is happening to this narrative.
Yeah.
I think Ruben was a little caught off guard. He sounded a little nervous to me when it started, but I thought he recovered fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was, it's such political theater,
yeah.
you know, that everybody's making their platform statements on one side or the other. I mean, Arizonans have been dealing with the immigration issue for well over a decade. Yeah. I call Arizonans the most sophisticated immigration voter in the country, because I think we can smell BS before, you know, at a great distance. And because we want solutions. We want solutions to problems, which is harder to explain in a format where you're getting attacked like that. I think Ruben tried to speak to that, tried to speak to what that bipartisan compromise bill actually did. She steered around that, wouldn't talk about how she would have supported, said later that she wasn't willing to support some compromises, and then castigated some various versions of that bill. But it's going to require compromise. If we want to get something done that secures our southern border and promotes commerce and trade, it's going to require compromise, not these two political ideologies throwing bombs at each other. Yeah,
and a compromise, as we all know, you walk away from it, and both sides, you should feel not happy about it when you walk away from that compromise. You shouldn't be popping champagne when you walk away from it. And obviously that didn't happen this summer.
It hasn't happened in over a decade.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened since Ronald Reagan. And this bill was an opportunity to actually get something done. The Democrats dropped a lot of their previous objections to border security and immigration restrictions in order to enhance those border security aspects of the bill, and then were met with unilateral Trump withdrawal of the Republican Party support for the bill.
I think Ruben-Gallego is talking right now, post-debate. Let's listen in real quick. Just 1 second.
So, we're excited. We're excited about the outcome, and moving on to the campaign. Go ahead.
So let's start with Ben Giles right there. Congressman, some personal attacks came up on the campaign stage, on the debate stage.
Oh, you noticed?
You had a lot of that on the campaign trail as well. Attacks about your father, attacks about your divorce from Mayor Gallego. Can you just comment on how you're feeling and how you're reacting when you hear this from the late?
Sure. Look, none of us should be surprised. This is who she is. She attacked the McCain family and called them a loser. And this is a woman that used to go and have dinner with the McCains. She attacked the Richer family to the point where he sued her for defamation, had to get personal bodyguards, and she admitted that she lied to him to the point where now she's going to have to pay damages. She said that Katie Hobbs should be arrested because she is facilitating drugs to the cartel. This is who she is. At the end of the day, that's not what Arizonans need, though. Arizonans need someone who's going to focus on them. Someone's going to focus on making sure that they actually have a secure future, that someone's going to focus on their kids being able to go to college, have a good job. And at the end of the day, her nastiness is going to be her undoing. We're going to focus on Arizona, and we're going to do for them. And she could talk all she wants about personalities and personal stuff.
All right, so both sides are now kind of able to talk about their side post-debate coverage. Ruben obviously talking about how he did, and he was talking about some of the attacks that Kari said during the debate, and she did go after him, and there were moments during the debate where their microphones were not cut. So I mean, she was able to.
She's good at that.
And she is good at that.
She's good at that.
Yeah.
She's got a skill set. What he was talking about is absolutely right. She's extraordinarily good at interjecting and creating a narrative on top of somebody else, because she's going to shout you down. I took that in my notes. I said somebody failed to negotiate the mic cut.
Yeah.
Because you have to expect that from her.
Right.
That's what she. I mean, this is the same candidate who went out and cornered Ruben in the airport with cameras.
Right.
She's a TV personality.
Yeah. Do you think that did her, was there maybe someone who would walk away from the debate saying, you know, I didn't like that. That gave me a negative vibe about her, and I don't like that when someone is cutting someone off.
I think that's part of her problem with the electorate right now, is that she's been doing this now essentially for 3 years since the conclusion of the last election. This has been going on and on, 2 years, into that election and then through that election. And this is who she is. And I think that is her personality. I think it's worn thin on a bunch of the electorate who wants more, who just doesn't want a TV personality who's shouting people down and calling them names. I mean, we all know that. Our parents taught us to be better than that, right? And we have to work together to solve problems. And I think most Arizonans know that as well. I think there's a base of voters who are very enthusiastic about her, and it's just not a majority of the electorate right now. It's not people who are in the middle looking for solutions. I think Ruben presented himself tonight as more of an appealing candidate to those types of voters, if they're listening, which, I don't think people who are undecided listen to these debates. Both sides, again, watch the debate. But, if people were listening tonight, I think they'd say, who do you want? Do you want this firebrand, talking over you personality, or somebody who's listening and willing to work and acknowledge with you?
All right, let's listen to that exchange about the immigration issue, border. Again, it took up about a half an hour of the hour-long debate. Let's listen to that.
Well, I think a border wall is important to a security package, but it also has to be coupled with technology, manpower, and then laws that come behind that. So this is why it was important that that the border security compromise bill passed, because it had a lot of those elements.
I covered the state for 27 years. I was in your home, and all that time we watched as career politicians said they were going to secure the border and give us border security, and they never did until President Trump came along and actually secured the border, but he had to do it with one hand tied behind his back, because people like my opponent were fighting him every step of the way.
Yeah, a lot of talk about the border wall, a lot of talk about the bill that, we were already talking about this summer. And it was interesting, too. It was almost like Kari Lake was in Congress. It was almost like she, did not vote for this bill. She's not in Congress.
No.
She's never been elected.
No, and she's right. Trump was more successful than the first couple of years of the Biden administration, which was a disaster. He used that Title 42, which is part of the COVID package, to literally shut down the border. At a point, the court said, hey, COVID's not a real thing anymore. You can't do that. That comes off, and then the Biden administration took 2 years to do what they recently did, which was modify the executive orders around asylum seekers. They could have done that before. You could say, I remember talking to John McCain way back in the day about the DACA stuff. And I said, hey, John, this is in a big room. I said, you got to do that. And he goes, well, President Obama is going to screw it up for everybody because he's going to use executive authority to do that. And it takes all the pressure out of the room, out of the room of the Capitol when you do that, because then there's no room for compromise anymore. You did it, it's yours now, you own it. And so now he's done this with executive action on the asylum stuff, so that political pressure may have been diminished for a period of time. Now he's got Republican attorney generals suing him on those asylum things. It speaks to the issue that whoever's elected president has to address this issue. Harris has talked about it being a priority. Trump's going to talk about the border wall and the types of things that are talking points that he's had success with.
All right, they also talked about the economy. Let's listen to that exchange.
Housing prices are on the rise. They've gone up 35%. I talked about when I first moved here and bought a house, a 3-bedroom house for $88,000. It's not affordable. And it goes right back to the American Rescue Act, the American Rescue Plan, which was anything but a rescue. It actually sent us spiraling and put our economy on life support.
The minimum wage should be $15, and it should be pegged to inflation, so it actually keeps moving up. Number two, you fight inflation by actually looking at how you can bring down costs. Number one, we have a big opportunity right now. We need to stop the merger of the grocery stores in Arizona. By allowing Kroger and Albertsons to merge, they're going to have 70% of all grocery store controlling customers. That'll raise prices.
Yeah, inflation, a huge issue, especially in the Valley. I mean, inflation is starting to come down a little bit. That's a good thing. But we know it's been a problem everywhere.
Housing inflation is a real thing for our community here. The grocery prices have been a real thing. We've experienced wild fluctuations in fuel because we don't make any fuel in Arizona. We get it from two different states. And so they sort of spoke past each other here on various issues. Ruben speaking about the food and the grocery prices, insulin and those. Kari going directly at the immigration crisis and folding that into the housing problem that we have. We've struggled with this issue for a long time. You know, we have 9 million acres of land, the state does. If the state wanted to create an affordable housing quality, you would figure out how to do that with state trust land assets, because land is the biggest cost component of housing. And so, you know, we're waiting to see if Governor Hobbs wants to pick up on that charge and do that in the next session of the legislature. But there are real things, but the quality of the housing issue is the substantive issue. Nobody's building that affordable quality, that product anymore. It's not coming. I mean, we're downtown. We see all kinds of apartments growing up everywhere, but that affordable single-family home is just not a product that's being built anymore.
It's not. Another thing we didn't even get to, abortion was a huge talking point, and Ruben-Gallego obviously was saying, hey, you can't trust Kari Lake. She was saying something in 2022, you can't trust her now. And something that was fascinating was her just kind of zeroing in on women and saying, hey, ladies, you know, you can trust me. And it really just looking at the camera saying, you know, hey, I have a bunch of, you know, siblings that are all women that I grew up with. And so who do you trust? And Ruben was saying you can't trust her. So that was really fascinating.
Well, she's taken these wildly extreme different positions on the abortion
and has
issue.
flip-flopped.
And I think Arizonans know that. If you're a pro-life candidate, she's your girl. That's your girl. If you're a reproductive rights candidate, Ruben's your guy. And so I don't think that's going to change anybody's mind out there. But you're right. Back to the TV personality. I mean, she was locking up.
She was.
The empathy vote. I'm one of you, sister. I've got 7 girls. I'm here for you. And so I don't know. My sense is that's not going to go well because there's been a significant, we've seen it in the polls, there's a significant gender gap that she has a problem with.
And I think clearly in the debate she was trying to connect with women. She was trying to address that. All right, Chuck Coughlin, always great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.